Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm your host, Andrew Lanza. Welcome to Buffs and Nerfs, presented by the Mind Refinery. This podcast will be hosted by myself and Sam Hall. Sam and I will explore the cultural significance of video games and examine their artistic merit and how it reflects the industry as a whole. So sit back and enjoy Buffs and Nerfs. And as always, a subscribe and positive rating on this or anything you've listened to would be greatly appreciated.
All right, Buffs and Nerfs, we're back. Sam Hall, what's up, buddy?
Not much. How are you doing this fine day or night, depending when people are listening to this?
Good. It's currently Saturday. To put things in context, we got some good news today.
Mass Effect remaster.
Yep. That is, that's big news. Also,
Something happened in America. I can't remember what.
Yeah, we got the election results. So good thing to wake up to on a Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so how have you been lately, man?
I've been all right. Just doing my thing. Been kind of staying at home, saving money, just playing my old video games and stuff like that. You know, just living the life of a person who plays video games and not much else.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you and I, we've mentioned it together. I mean, we've mentioned it before, but we work together, and lately at work, it's been, super busy. So, just with kind of like all the productions, starting back up after COVID and stuff like that, it's been just super, super busy. So we've been experiencing a little bit of crunch ourselves, I think would be the term, which segues nicely.
Love it. Lavender and cinnamon everywhere.
Into the topic of our current conversation is crunch. Obviously, again, we're not industry insiders into the video game world, so this is from an outsider perspective and just like, our own personal lens of the situation. But yeah, I thought I'd just start us off with a quote from one of my personal heroes, Shigeru Miyamoto. He was quoted as saying, "A delayed game is eventually good. A bad game is bad forever." So, I mean, obviously, this kind of more relates to older games. When patches weren't a thing. You couldn't just like put out a day one patch with like, NES games or N64 games or whatever. You might be able to put out a second version or whatever, but it's like, once your game went gold or once, you printed your game and you distributed it, that was essentially it. So, I mean, the sentiment behind that quote, I think, still stands. So, I mean, overall, just how that relates into crunch. What's your kind of take on that quote and how it relates to crunch? And maybe also give a broad definition of crunch if you wouldn't mind.
Well, you're right about it definitely being a quote of a time. I mean, back when he was producing games, it was, as you said...
like he still doesn't. But anyway, go on.
I mean, did he have anything to do with the Mass Effect Trilogy remaster? Then it doesn't matter. But he was talking about a time when, like, you had to release a game, and when, like, you kept hearing stories about, there was this one thing in this one game that if you did one thing it was unbeatable and there was no way to fix it kind of shit. Yeah, but I agree with the statement overall. Like, I think what he's basically saying is take your time, make sure you get it right and stand it out, because once a game is released, even if in the modern era where you can patch it, the reputation from a day one release is what affects it, especially more now, actually. But crunch is basically when, if you want to have like a straight definition, in my opinion, is when, I was going to call them production companies, but like software developers, game developers, say, hey, yeah, you guys need to do super long hours and give up a life for the next couple weeks, months to get this thing done on time. And I'll just flat out say it. I think it's not necessary. I would rather games are delayed and people who are making them have decent lives. But yeah, no, that's what crunch is to me. And I am opposed. I'm damn opposed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just with, video game industry. I think it's just with a lot of industries, especially see it with like tech industries. But I mean, it goes for like anything where it's like your big release or your big whatever you've kind of been gearing towards. It's like all hands on deck right before the release. It's, everybody's pulling 16-hour days or whatever. Everybody's pulling 6-hour weeks, and it's just, as I said,
I think you mean 6-day weeks, not 6-hour weeks.
Yes.
That'd be great. That'd be amazing. Yeah, we're gonna pay you your salary, but 6-hour weeks. What is that, like an hour?
I'd love that. Yeah, I think they do
2 hours on
Sweden
Friday. Okay, sure.
I don't know.
That's awesome.
Oh, but yeah. Sorry, 6-day weeks, 7-day weeks. I'm sure. Yeah. So, but as far as that Miyamoto quote goes, I think what you said, I think you nailed it on the head with Reputation. Because, like, yeah, there is day one patches, but it's like you're still crunching for that day one patch. It's like, even if your game goes gold or whatever, where it's like, you have like the game disc or like the game file or whatever, and you're like, that's like V 1.0 or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, like, even if you do have those like, you're still crunching for that day one patch to like make the game playable. And like, you've seen broken games on launch. Like, for instance, we've talked about on the podcast before, but goddamn, Division 1 was absolutely broken in so many ways. And some of those bugs you still see in the game to this day. But that game was broken, and like it suffered from that bad reputation of being a broken game. That a lot of people just never got over that. Whereas the Division 2 was actually very, had a very good launch. So anyway, I digress about Division, but it's like, he says a delayed game is eventually good, a bad game is bad forever. Where it's like, yeah, the state, like, the reputation is still there. Like, I think that sentiment still really holds true, and I think that's why you see the crunch is like people are really trying to like take that and like delay, they're trying to take that and just compact that all into like a that short amount of time just to get the product out.
It's definitely like an industry which is super focused on, we need to be releasing at this time, because it's kind of funny. It's like they're the film industry, which Andrew and I work in, definitely has the same sort of mentality of, okay, we need to have this ready for the summer, we need to have this ready for Christmas, we need, that kind of business. But they seem to generally give themselves enough time. I don't know why it is, and I mean, again, I'm not a programmer, but I don't know why it is. It seems like these companies go like, oh yeah, we can have that game for you in 2 years. Oh, did I say 2 years? I meant 3. Like, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you have like projected earnings reports. And
yeah,
like, we got to be making this in our Q2 financial summary. We have the projected earnings of this game that we're releasing on this 100%. Day. So it's like, I get it. Like, there's like shareholders. You're beholden to the shareholders, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I get that, but it's like, you're doing it at the cost of people's lives. You're doing it at the cost of like people's like family and personal lives. And it's just like, there's like this toxic culture of like, almost like at a lot of these game studios, that it's like, it's to be expected. So it's like, it's kind of just like, yep, our game is shipping in 6 months or, in 3 months, etc. And it's hard to get those dates pushed back. So the dates pushed back. So I guess that kind of brings us to our next point. That's like, is crunch necessary? Is that completely necessary to ship a product on time? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Specifically, I guess, with like, recently CD Projekt Red pushed back Cyberpunk.
I would say no. I mean, I could offer a longer, more nuanced answer than that, but generally speaking, I'd rather a game gets delayed by a bit than people having to suffer for something that I enjoy. Like, especially when you have something like a Rockstar game coming out and you hear, oh, at the end of the cycle there was massive crunch on Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, that's the name. I just don't see, from a human point, why you would put people through that. But then again,
yes, a human point.
Yeah, but then again, I'm also not Take-Two, and whoever owns Take-Two, or if they're a private company, and I'm not shareholder dependent. So I get why it happens, but I feel like what the industry needs to do is hire some professional, like, second ADs or something, and learn to schedule better. Like, learn to be more realistic and going, okay, this will take us 4 years to make. This will take us 3 years to make, not instead of 3 or 2 years like we project. And you see, I don't mind a delay when it's early. Like, if you tell me, okay, the game's coming out in October, and then let's say we get to June, you're like, you know what, I gotta delay the game a bit. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It doesn't bother me as much as like these really short-term things where it's like, you guys should probably have known that you were not going to make that date a lot earlier. So, but there is also probably the other side of that is, I think some of the reasons for delays are very sort of like things that pop up. Like with Cyberpunk, I was reading the PC and the next gen, like, the versions are ready, but it's something about the current gen, like the PS4 and the Xbox versions. They found something they had to make that work. They had to delay it a month. That's what's holding it back. So I think that's what it was. I could be wrong on that, but it was one of the generations is the issue. It's not the whole game. It's just one of the local, not localizations. What's the term for that?
Versions,
I guess.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do as well with when a game is being developed and first kind of like the whole like what the game is going to be about. I think there's a lot of like back and forth and humming and hawing about like finalizing certain like aspects of a game, whether it be like story or like the just the general direction, the creative idea behind a game. That a lot of times there's like a lot of committee back and forth and hard to get approval in the initial stages of a game when there's like, oh, like this game's supposed to ship in like a year and a half, and there's all this like time, and they're like, oh, we can do this, we can try this, and then finally, like, 6 months out, they're like, oh shit, like we gotta make a game. Like, I'm looking at you, Anthem. But it's just like, yeah, then you have 6 months out, all these people that like finally they're like, okay, we're finally getting answers from like the board members. We're finally getting answers from the committee, and they're like finally trying to push out this game that now, it's like 6 months out, and that's when the crunch occurs. And a lot of times too, it's like these game developers, like there's no unions and that sort of thing. And it's like they're just expected to work these crazy hours. And a lot of times there is bonuses, especially if they get like, certain ratings on Metacritic or whatever. A lot of these companies do get certain bonus, like the people get certain bonuses, but that's not guaranteed. And we've seen recently with like the Borderlands 3 team and stuff like that, where the bonuses that were expected and all the crunch that happened afterwards, the bonuses were like the bonuses aren't really happening this year. So it's kind of like the bonuses may come, but at what what's the cost?
Well, I have a question about that. I remember vaguely hearing about that, but I didn't get all the details. Was it strictly like across the board, everyone involved in the game didn't get bonuses, or was it like, oh, the programmers and the artists and stuff didn't get bonuses, but the like directors did, kind of thing? Is it like a
I think it was like across the board. Like, honestly, I remember like, okay, honestly, again, this is what now a few months ago that this whole like the whole what is it? What's the company that does Borderlands?
Gearbox.
Take-Two? Oh, Gearbox. This was a few. So like for like Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, apparently like Gearbox they couldn't afford competitive. They couldn't afford to pay the employees competitive rates during development. But then once like the return came back on Borderlands 1, once return came back on Borderlands 2, people with bonuses apparently were like buying houses and shit. Like, apparently, like, they paid out substantial bonuses. So, same thing happened Borderlands 3. There was a shit ton of crunch. The whole team really pulled it off. I never played Borderlands 3 personally. I hear it's a fine game, for all intents and purposes. And then, like, they got the whole exclusive money from the Epic Games Store to go exclusive for 6 months or whatever on Epic Games Store on PC. So, they got this huge payout. And then, like, after all this crunch happened, after the payout from Epic, yada yada yada, there was an internal email being like, oh, by the way, like, there's going to be bonuses, but it's going to be like a couple thousand type thing. You know what I mean? Like a kind of like a thanks for coming out.
Right, almost like an honorarium.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so I again, this was a few months ago. I apologize if I got any of the specifics incorrect, but yeah. Let me ask you, have you experienced any crunch? Like, can you remember a time in your personal life or like, at work or whatever, where you experienced a lot of crunch?
Not really. Certainly not on the scale that like video game developers go through. I mean, I actually, as I mentioned, we work in the film industry, and I think it's a bit of a false comparison I made earlier. I'm not sure if false is the right term, because one of the things you pointed out is that the video game industry is not heavily unionized while the film industry is, and that having that strength of protection film production is, well, the film industry is for the most part, like even post is heavily unionized.
There's not a huge
no, there is. We're just the exception where we work. Like, there's a lot of like the editors are unionized, the VFX guys. I don't know about VFX, but I definitely know like editors are heavily unionized.
Well, I know a lot of VFX aren't. So that's kind of
yeah.
That's kind of what I was referring to anyway. But anyway, go on.
But anyway, so the thing is, like, when you're dealing with a unionized workforce, you have very specific things where they say, okay, we will do this. If we go into this hour on a day, you have to pay us this much. If the show goes this long, you have to think. Like, it basically means by the time that a film starts shooting, they pretty much know, with like, extra hours here and there on a daily basis, how long it's going to shoot for, when they'll be done, when they're going to finish shooting. Like, it's a very regimented thing. Also, creating a film is. Unlike a video game where it's like you don't have to be like, oh shit, we can't program today because we need to program tomorrow because we have this restaurant we're going to program in, that kind of thing. But basically, I think the big difference is it feels, from my understanding, that the video game industry isn't unionized. And if you don't have a collective bargaining position or organization backing you up, unfortunately, like the owners, the bosses, if you will, if we're talking like 1930s sort of strike breakers and stuff, they'll just say, you're going to keep working or else we're going to let you go because there's somebody else who wants your job. And I think basically, the video game industry needs to become unionized. I think that will solve a lot of the issues with crunch. But personally, myself, I've never really experienced that crunch, but I've never been in a job where there's been that kind of pressure to stay late.
Yeah, honestly, I've experienced it this past couple months at work. There was a few summers back. We had a lot of shows running at work. I remember experiencing it that time. Also, like with school, I remember my first year of film school, like I remember the end of the year, end of first semester and end of the year were just absolute shit shows with the amount of work I had to do. So it's like second and third year were more like production work and just like a lot of work that way, but like there was just a lot of shit going on at the end of first year and end of first semester. So I mean, I don't know if it would be to the same extent that these people are going through. Again, these are just like, personal experiences, but I would say, I'd probably say those times in my life were like the busiest times. Definitely right now what's going on with like all the stuff shooting in Toronto is definitely so. Gonna pivot it back a little bit to CD Projekt Red. What are your personal thoughts on Cyberpunk being delayed here? We talked about it a little bit. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, if they have to delay it to make it work for everybody, I'm a strong believer in egalitarianism. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, I won't say I wasn't like, ooh, I'm a little disappointed. I mean, in 2 weeks' time, I'd be playing Cyberpunk, and now it's like a month's time. But it's actually going back to the quote you opened with. I'd rather wait the extra month and have a polished game for everybody than get something and then have to download a day one patch and then like 2 weeks later someone's like, oh, you know what, we found this little clipping issue, so we fixed that. Like, I'm very much I'm super psyched for Cyberpunk. I mean, I think everybody is, but I'm definitely psyched for it. I can't wait for it to come out, and I'm really looking forward to playing it. But if they have to take the time to make it better, make it better. Like, even if it's something like this where it doesn't really affect me because I'll probably be playing the PC version, but if they have to make it better so that somebody playing it on the PS4 or on Xbox One, if that's what it was, take the time, do it. But if it also means like, oh, we just need a month when you really need like 2 or 3, I would say take the 2 or 3 months. Like, if they basically said, oh, we gave a month, but we're factoring in that we're going to ask our people to crunch, that's a little shitty.
I don't think like we talked about this before, but I think this last month is like the last month. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if they did another month. And
I wouldn't be.
I don't know. I think this is like the absolute last month. That
I said I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't say I expect them to. I think that I want to make that distinction. I'm not saying, oh, it's going to happen again, but
I would be surprised, to be quite honest.
No, I wouldn't be.
If they like pushed it back another month. I think this is like like how many times has it been delayed now?
Well, right now I would be surprised because like it has been how long has it been since the announcement? At least 2 weeks. Like, I feel at this point they would be saying something if they knew they weren't going to make their release date. But
it's like people are already disappointed enough one time. Like, well, not one time, like this many times. Why disappoint them again in like another month or like another couple weeks? Like, just get all the disappointment out at once.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm hoping the reason they said, oh, we need a month and a half. Well, we really need like 2 weeks, but we're factoring in some time for extra whatever.
Hopefully.
So.
Like, I'm sure that is like they probably like projected earnings, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. They probably like looked at everything, crunch, and they're like, feasibly the most we could give you is like a month. That's probably like the absolute most that
well,
they
I
like,
think
can concede.
A thing I read, and this might be wrong. This might be just like complete bullshit, and if it is, I apologize. But I read somewhere that European companies' fiscal calendars are directly tied to the like proper Julian calendar that we use. So their financial year ends on December 31st. So I think they couldn't push it back any further because that would slip the profits into next year. So I suspect we'll see something, but don't be surprised if there's patches. But again, I'm hoping the delay was we need 2 weeks. We could take it a month and a half just to be sure. And they've gone gold, so that doesn't mean everything's perfect, but it means everything's ready. So I don't know. But
honestly, take like you said, take as much time.
Mm-hmm.
Take as much time. Make that game as good as possible. Again, I understand like the company's got to make money and they got to put out a product eventually, but like just take your time. Also, I'm not gonna lie. Personally, I'm pretty stoked. We only had it was a week before the delay. It was like a week after Destiny Beyond Light that Cyberpunk was launching. So having that extra the extra month to play Destiny 2 and just like really sink our teeth into that, I'm not gonna be upset about that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Because I'm sure in a month's time after the release of Destiny 2, I'll be like, yeah, this is boring.
Well, I know you will, but
no, you love Destiny. That's a personal thing for me. I mean, I'm also actually. It's funny. On the last time we recorded, I don't know what order these episodes are being released. I mentioned like, oh, you know what, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to be my Christmas game. Well, now Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I'm going to pick up like day one, and then Cyberpunk is now becoming my Christmas game because it's coming out a month later, sort of thing. So I'll still have something to keep me entertained. While Destiny is boring and terrible from start to finish. Yeah,
I think there's gonna be a good sizable amount of content that it's gonna be keeping us back.
There's like, literally just one
coming back.
Oh yeah, no. I jokes aside, I do enjoy Destiny, but there's only one checkbox that like will say whether this is good or just mediocre. New enemy type? Oh, I can't check that off. Way to go, Bungie.
I'm gonna say probably not, but not no.
Well, no, what they're going to do is they're going to hint at it. We're going to see, like, a drawing on a wall that looks like one of the new enemy types, and we'll see it in 2022. No, 2022, you know, they're not going to tease it for that long. But, like, I mean, I know this topic's about crunch, but, man, Bungie, stop with the teasing. Just, like, and not just about this, about everything. Like, Savathûn we've been hearing about for years. It's, like, just, there comes a point where it's annoying. All right, back on topic. Crunch. Good chocolate bar, not great.
It's a honestly, I enjoy it. I don't think I've bought a Nestle Crunch bar in 2 decades.
I feel like I may have bought one back in high school or something like that. Now, if you put a Crispy in front of that Crunch, that's a different story. That's a delicious chocolate bar.
Horse of a different color. So yeah, CD Projekt Red,
yep.
They are going through a lot of crunch. They said they weren't going to be going through crunch. They designed the development window so there wouldn't be any crunch. Of course, there's crunch.
Yeah.
Now, did you see this email that the devs sent out to like the companies, like pretty much apologizing to the employees' families and stuff like that?
No, I didn't see that.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. They like sent out an email. I was reading it earlier. I probably should have had it up, but anyway. But yeah, so they're just like essentially apologizing, just like we have to do this to make this go live. We apologize.
Well, I mean, it's nice they apologize, but I mean, if I hit somebody with a car, then I apologize. I mean, that's probably a very extreme example. What I'm saying is like it's sort of.
What if you did it on purpose? Would you apologize then?
Well, no, but that's the thing. Like, if I'm like driving down the thing and I'm trying to get to, you know, the 401 exit for Burlington, and I hit somebody on the way. I mean, I'm trying to reach this destination. I've caused a little pain on the way, but I'll send an email. I mean, I don't know. It's like an individual basis. There's probably some people who are just like, fuck yeah, give me the crunch. I can use the more money, assuming that they're getting paid extra for the time.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, yes, because of European labor laws, they are getting paid for the extra time. I did look into that, and I can confirm.
Oh, that would actually be interesting. I wish I had done more research on this. Like American versus European versus, I guess, Japanese. Like
American,
labor force.
They don't have to, but because it's in Poland, European labor laws.
Yeah.
confirmed that they do have to get paid for that overtime.
Well, I suspect European gaming and developers in general are probably more unionized and labor friendly, at least. So that it'd be interesting. But I mean, Rockstar's a European. Well, it depends on what you think of Brexit.
Well, I was about to say, and some of Rockstar depends on which Rockstar.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But like the one that creates like the Grand Theft Autos, like the main Rockstar North is in Scotland. So I guess they're not a part of Europe anymore because of Brexit. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what labor laws are like in various regions and how that affects the developers. But going back to crunch, I just generally, I mean, I don't really know what to say more than don't do it. Take the time you need, man. And if you need like another month or two, just say, hey, we need another month or two to make this better. I don't know.
Now, what are your thoughts on CD Projekt Red? So some of the employees receiving death threats. Have you heard about this?
Why would anyone threaten? Is it like you don't do crunch or I'll kill you, or is it like you shut up and work or I'll kill you? Like what?
It's like release
I hadn't heard
the game.
of this.
It's like release the game. We know where your family lives.
Internet, man. Yeah.
Imagine
every once in a while you bum me the fuck out, internet.
Imagine being a grown human being and being like, the game I want to play, I can't play yet. You need to die.
I mean,
like, imagine.
There's so many ways to vent your displeasure. Like, I don't know, man. Just that's sad. That's pathetic. That's like people who issue death threats over something like this. Like
even if you're like 14 years old, that's still shitty. But like if you're an adult at all and you're sending these kind of things, like reevaluate what's going on with yourself.
100%. That's terrible. That's like it's a video game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love video games. I play them all the fucking time. Way too much probably. And I really enjoy them playing for years. But I mean, it's a video game. Like, if it doesn't come out, I'm not going to, like, someone's got to die or I'll kill you if you don't release it. That actually, to me, it's sad in a way because that points out that people who issue these kinds of death threats over something so, I hate to say it, and I know this podcast's all about it, but trivial? Like, no one dies if you don't play CD Projekt Red, hopefully.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment, yeah. Like, that's a sign that actually they're probably either dealing with something in their own life or they've got a mental
sure. Absolutely.
Challenge or disorder. So like it's definitely like I almost feel sad for those people who issue those kinds of death threats over something so meaningless because they've either got other issues they're dealing with or they've put this one piece of entertainment so high on a pedestal that it becomes something worth killing over. I mean, I do realize that most of them are not like literally going release or I'll kill you and they're like loading up a gun. Like a lot of them are just, venting, but it's like to even make a false death threat over something like
taking
a video game
time out of your day, like to find somebody's Twitter account or whatever Facebook account. I'm not exactly sure how they sent the message, but like finding people's accounts and messaging them. It's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like as I said,
100%.
Reevaluate what you're doing with your life. It's gonna be better. You gotta wait a month. It's gonna be better.
Well, I mean, I remember being like 10 or 11 or something like that and waiting for like I guess it wasn't so much video games back then, but like a movie to come out or something like, oh, I want to go see them. We're going to go see Raiders or whatever on the weekend. Well, no, that's a little too young for me, but like it's weird that some people, especially if they're adults, have that infantile, like, I can't wait for Christmas morning thing going on.
Anyway, so we're talking about CD Projekt Red. We've talked about them before. In the eyes of fans and consumers, they're the gold standard. They're very, very pro-consumer. They give very good value for the money. They're good at communicating. They're good at updating, etc., etc. Very, very pro-consumer. Do you think it's possible to be pro-consumer while also being pro-developer?
Yes. I don't think you need to necessarily make a sacrifice between one or the other.
They're not mutually exclusive.
No, they absolutely are not. Like, I think what it is transparency is the biggest thing for both sides. Like, you have to be able to say, as a developer, like, okay, we need to hit this schedule, but you have to be able to say to the public and to the thing, like, okay, we're expected to release at this time, and then if there's a delay, saying, okay, there will be a delay. And to CD Projekt Red's credit, they've never like I said, I read something about why they were delaying. Some companies would just say it's coming out and we're pushing back by 2 months. Why? Hello? Why? Hello?
Radio silence.
Yeah. So I give them credit for releasing what the reason is. And the CD Projekt Red games I play, which are honestly just Witcher 2 and Witcher 3, are solid quality games from this, like the first time you load them, sort of thing. So they have a reputation for polish, and if they need to take another month to get it working for, even if it's just for one of the iterations, even if it's for one of the versions I'm not going to play, take the time, let them do it because they know what they're doing. I just hope I'm not so happy that right now, in theory, there's a bunch of CD Projekt Red employees who are like doing 16-hour days to get Cyberpunk ready to go. It's like they have a good reputation in my eyes, but I will say, anytime I hear of a company doing crunch, it devalues them to some degree, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, crunch might be universally accepted, but it's doesn't stop it being a shitty deal for the employees, right? If you have to do crunch, I know they're forced to often from pressures outside of the company, like the investor saying, hey, you're supposed to drop this thing in Q3 of this year, so you better drop it in Q3. So if you're doing crunch, to me, it always, in the back of my head, reveals either the acceptable kind where it's like, oh, we found this problem that nobody knew about, and now we're going to fix it. And then when that's the reason for crunch, I'm not a fan of crunch, but I kind of understand it a little bit. But if it's the reason is like, oh, we just didn't give ourselves enough time. We need another 2 months, stuff was piling up, that kind of thing. I feel that is like, that's not a good reason for crunch. You should be able to say, hey, you know what? This game realistically will take us 3 years to develop, not 2. So we need the time. And I know that unlike in the film industry, video games go through a lot of different iterations before they start becoming right. Like a film, generally speaking, once it has the money and the green light to go ahead, has a script, has people attached, the schedule is pretty not set in stone, but like people understand how long it's going to take to do everything. But with a video game, it's like, okay, we start off this game, he jumps. Okay,
It can spiral.
Yeah, like a game can often come out very different than the initial idea for it. But
and the time frame can spiral really.
Yeah, 100%. But even still, I feel like when a game, I think what it comes down to is like if a game company says, "Oh, that thing we were going to release in the spring, it's not coming out till the fall." I'm like, okay, that's a reasonable thing. You realize you need 6 months. I don't get the impression anyone's getting, pressure to release, and that's kind of what's happened with Cyberpunk, because I think it was initially supposed to come out in March, then they delayed it to April last year. Well, last year they delayed it to April of this year, and then they delayed again until, I think it was, I guess what was supposed to come out in November. And that's fine, because that to me says, oh, you guys are looking forward. You're going, okay, you know what? If we want to make this properly, we need more time. Let's ask for the time now from the consumer, quotes around ask. But when you say something like this, in this case, where Cyberpunk's like, oh, we need a month, that to me strikes of just like, hopefully it's you found something unexpected and that's what's causing the crunch. But if this is more of a just like, oh, we didn't budget our time right, we started, meetings and decisions and stuff along the way, kept pushing the tail end of the process, then I have a bit of an issue with that. You should be better at scheduling that sort of thing.
Well, now let me ask you this. Let me ask you this hypothetical.
Right.
What if a company has to release on, whatever, November 10th, who knows, whatever, when they got to get it in there for Q3 earnings or whatever, and the company's running on fumes. They got to fuel the coffer. They got to get money in the bank. They got to make sales. And the only way to do that is to get people to crunch. And otherwise it's like, yo, who knows if we're going to have a job if we can't ship this game on November 10th. Like I feel like there are, I'm not going to, when you say that a company instantly, like your opinion of a company goes down when you hear they have crunch, I'm saying I feel like there are times when it can be necessary.
Yes, I see what you're saying. And when I say it goes down, it's not like, oh, CD Projekt's a bunch of dicks. No, it's just like, oh, no, they're still pretty good, but, they have this one little thing I'm not a big fan of. But again,
of course, nobody wants, well, not nobody. I'm sure there are some masochists out there. But like,
yes, put me through the crunch, please.
Yeah, or like, people are like, fuck that guy, like, make my game. But like, generally, people are like, I don't want people to suffer for my enjoyment. As I hold an iPhone in my hand, but still.
in the example you just gave me, it's still, if they're like, oh, we need to be done by November 1st, it's like,
Again, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals.
Yeah, hypotheticals, 100%. That still sounds to me like that at some point, like you made a decision of your time and you did not give yourself enough time. Like, and I don't know the gaming industry well enough. And what would be great is like,
pick yourself up by the bootstraps is what you're saying.
No. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that, the people who are making the executives and lead designers and stuff like that, lead programs, should be able to factor in how long it's taken. They should know if it's realistic to have it released by November, like depending on the scale and the demands of the game. But again, I don't know.
But it can spiral.
Yeah, it can absolutely spiral. But I mean, at that point, if a game gets released and it's not finished, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because it's going to have a bad reputation off the bat. But that being said, I do understand that with every passing year, games get more and more complex. Like, compared to a game 10 years ago. Like, for example, the Mass Effect remaster that's coming out. I mean, which you will hopefully finally play.
Honestly, I'm down. As I said in the art podcast, I am down.
Well, you'll play it, you'll be like, wow, this is a very, like, it almost feels like a simple stripped down game compared to today. So games get more complex, and I understand that with that complexity comes more issues and problems and things that can pop up, whether expected or unexpected. And I think so I do accept that sometimes, there has to be a bit of crunch if they want to make their release date, but I still feel that if you are coming down on your employees and being like, you have to work 18 hours a day for the next 7 days a week for the next month to get this out on time, that to me strikes of, there's doing extra work to get a release date, like saying, oh, you know what, 5 days a week, but we're doing like 12-hour days instead of 8. Those are long days, but that kind of, you get it done. But if you're saying if the situation is people are doing like 16-hour days, 6-7 days a week just to make a deadline, that strikes to me as, it goes back to my issue of scheduling. It goes back to people should be more realistic about how long it takes to make a game.
Okay, so I mean, you've kind of touched on it, but I was going to say there's almost a culture these days around crunch and kind of like, it's to be expected. You know what I mean? It's almost like a badge of honor in a way for some people. I don't know. Is that am I wording that wrongly?
I don't know if badge of honor, but it definitely feels like, from what little I know of the industry as an outsider, until this podcast gets super popular, then I'll be an outsider.
It is almost kind of like, though, it's like you've been in the shit, you've been in the trenches, like you've come, like when you kind of come out the other end, there's almost like a camaraderie that kind of like happens when you're like, you've all been through the shit together. I don't know. I feel like there is this like culture almost of crunch.
Well, I think what it is, I don't know about camaraderie. I'm sorry, that may be the case. But what I think it is more like, hey, this is the video game industry. It's super popular. Everybody wants to work in video games. You have to expect this. The crunch is just part of what you're going to go through if you want to work in this industry. I feel it's less, we've been in the shit together, than more just like, this is what's expected of you. If you don't like it, get the fuck out, because we'll find someone who wants your job. Like,
I don't know. I feel like if you're working at a company and it's maybe not like, I'm not talking about like EA or something, like maybe like a smaller company, whatever, even maybe EA. But if you're like all going through the shit together and you come out and you ship a game and you know what everybody else has gone through, you've gone through, and you're at that company, you're like, you maybe not a company man or a company woman, but like, you work at that company, you got some pride in it, you got some pride in the product you put out, you know what you've been through. I'm saying there's almost like, I don't know what anyway.
How rude can I be right now?
I'm gonna say like a 6 to 7 out of 10.
Okay, I think this falls within it. So what I would say to those people who are going like, these workers like, hey guys, we did it, we all came through, yeah, high five, 16-hour days, 6 days a week, you know what, this is great, yeah, this is good, congratulations, you played yourself, you're an employee, you basically have just normalized
Khaled reference, TJ Khaled over here.
You're normalizing the concept of crunch. Like, if employees say, hey, you know what, crunch happens once in a while and it's okay because we're all in it together, who's laughing right when you say that is the fucking owner of the company and the holding company that owns him or whatever. They're just saying, going like, they're cool with it. Hey, did you see this? They accept that this crunch is going to be part of what they have to go through. Great. Like when you normalize in an industry a poor practice like this, like crunch, when the workers like say, oh, you know what, this is fine, this is part of the industry, and there's a sense of camaraderie going along with working together. We're all part of a team because we've all been through this shitty situation. It doesn't stop it being a shitty situation. Like, and there isn't any like honor or merit or glory in going through working extra hours so that some shareholders can make their profits a quarter earlier. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're a bit of a bootlicker. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm not saying they're bootlickers. What I'm saying is they've normalized if there are groups of like programmers go like, oh yeah, I work for this company, and this program company, this company, software developer, we make these games, and I like these games. Cool. But we always know every time we come to the end of a cycle, we have to do some crunch, but it's fine because we're all in it together, right, guys? No, it's not fine. You've basically been like almost brainwashed into believing that, oh, it's cool for us to be treated like shit by our bosses, to have them take away our lives for like 2-3 months at the end of this. Like, sure, we get a financial numeration and financial compensation for that, hopefully. And but if your attitude is it's fine because everyone else goes through it, that doesn't make it okay. That just means you guys are basically saying to the bosses and the employees, the employers, oh, these guys are fine with it, so let's just keep doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you touched on it a little bit. So what do you think the cure to like crunch cultures? What do you think the cure is to crunch? Okay. So that's what I was about to say. You touched on scheduling.
I think people need to be more realistic about how long it takes to make a game. And I think actually part of it should actually go back, and this is a weird thing because it's not the companies or the employees. I think as gamers, we have to start saying, you know what? Stop putting these people through these I don't know how bad the working conditions are, but certainly suboptimal working conditions.
Gamers rise up.
Exactly. Yeah, in a way, we need to start saying to companies, you know what? Stop doing crunch. If it just, like, we're okay to wait the extra 3 months if you need the 3 months legitimately, if it means that the employees are able to have lives, like they're able to see their families and their kids and stuff like that.
Should I cancel my pre-order for Cyberpunk and then just
I'm not canceling my pre-order. Fuck you that.
Okay, so don't cancel my pre. Okay,
no,
okay, I wasn't going to.
Yeah, no. Like, I mean, it's not on that scale. I mean, this is, again, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I did pre-order it just because I was like, oh, you know what, I might as well do this now. It's weird. Pre-orders are such a thing that I should be standing against, but I just do it because on the day I'm like, I want to have it preloaded. I want to have it ready. It's a bad thing.
The only thing I pre-order is things that I know I'm for sure gonna buy.
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh, I don't pre-order everything.
If I'm on the fence about something, it's like I can get it 2 days after it came out. Like, I don't need it right away. You know what I mean? I can get it 2 days after it came out and hear what people have to say about it. If people are saying it's shit, I'm like, sweet, I saved myself $80. People are saying it's 100%. Good. I was like, sweet, I was gonna buy it anyway. Let's go.
Well, bringing up pre-order is a good thing. It's a habit that I need to break, and I think, honestly, many people need to stop doing, because I'm sure that when you have a game has a mass amount of pre-orders, they're like, okay, we just told all these people pre-ordering, this is going to come out on, then we need to have it ready, and that probably adds to the crunch.
That's also true. That's a bit of false advertising for sure. When you're like, I have pre-purchased this product, I expect it to come out, and then we haven't even touched on the fact of, like, some people, when Cyberpunk was being released, or even when Destiny was being released, it's been delayed as well. Whatever, any game, people take time off work. People book time off work. A month in advance, 2 months in advance, whatever. They block off a bunch of time to take off when a game comes out, and when it's delayed, it's like, well, shit, like, that's set in stone. I can't really do anything about that. I only get X amount of days of vacation per year. It's already December almost. It's already almost like at the end of the year here, and it's just like, well, it's not December. I mean, it's really November. Yeah, so let's not get excited, but yeah, it's just like, yeah, you're kind of fucking over people's plans in that respect. I mean, that is one smaller aspect for sure.
Well, yeah, I definitely we've taken time off. I think we took time off for the launch of the initial Destiny 2
We've taken a lot of time off work for Destiny. Let's not lie.
And it only happens like once every year or so. We take a time off, and it's great. But
I tried for Beyond Light. I just couldn't.
Well, aren't you glad you didn't now?
For this Beyond Light, though.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant it for its initial release date, like 2 months ago, back in September. But yeah, no. But I okay. I'm sorry that the game isn't coming out on the day you took a day off. But first of all, if you're in a position to have a job where you can say, "Hey, I won't be working Thursday," and especially if you're getting paid for that day off, you should. I think everybody should know by now that release dates are a fluid, mercurial thing. So maybe don't book the time off unless you can do it like on real short notice. Like, oh, you know what?
Oh, this guy's saying you should schedule things better, and now you're saying they're fluid.
What? No, I'm saying the game companies should schedule things better so they match their release dates, but I'm saying people should understand they don't always match their release dates because they're not scheduling it properly. It totally backs up my argument.
You're right. All right.
I'm just saying, like, if you're taking time off for the release of a big game, you've got to accept that. Oh, you know what? It's probably going to get delayed, especially for some things that are like clockwork, like Assassin's Creed games or Call of Duty games. When they say they're coming out, they're coming out. Like, I can't remember if I've ever heard of a Call of Duty game getting pushed by a month, or even Assassin's Creed, these big, huge titles. But for something like a CD Projekt Red level, which is like, they're AAA, but like, is there AA? Like, where it's just, they're not quite at that like massive level. Like, you have to accept you may be a little disappointed. So, I mean, I feel bad for people who took time off for Cyberpunk or other games, and then the release just gave them this day off with nothing. But the other thing is, it's like, especially if it's a game that like Destiny that has online connection, man, do you know the number of times we've started a Destiny expansion and it's been like connecting to the server and you're getting like Wallaby errors?
5,642 in line.
Yeah, it's like
in queue, exactly.
I think what you should do is, if a video game is coming out, you make the plans for the weekend after, assuming you're working a Monday through Friday game for Friday job. If you have shifts, whatever, but you should make plans not for that day, but for like the next realistic day or two off, and say, hey, you know what? I'm on Saturday. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be getting into this game. You tell your wife, you tell your kids, and not in the sense of like, don't bother dad or don't bother mom while she's playing. Like, just say, hey, like, explain to your family the situation. I don't think you should be like sitting there rapidly going, I took a day off and it better fucking come out today. Because quite frankly, as we've discussed for 50 minutes now, you can't count on that in the industry. Sorry, I wish I could be on the side of the guy taking time off.
Hey, but I'm just throwing it out there. But yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it. I mean, obviously scheduling. I mean, it's such a catch-all. But I think something that really would help is like having somebody that is. I mean, all games have directors. But somebody that is just really like going to take control of a game and give yes or no answers, especially from the early onset of a game.
100%.
That has like a really clear vision and direction. And like, obviously it's so easy to say this, but it's like, I think that's what you really need is somebody at the head of things. That's like, at the end of the day, it's like it's kind of, the game is on this person, but it's like, go by their vision and like, obviously like allow people to collaborate. Like, it's not about like, some tyrannical dictatorship, which I'm sure some game development studios are. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you have all these people if you have too many chefs in the kitchen, it's going to be just, nobody's going to be able to agree on anything, and trying to have any sort of decision-making process is going to be this long, protracted struggle. So I think you really need to see, especially like in the development of games, is really like have a clear defined window what the development cycle is, and like what the kind of like early conception of a game is, and then move forward on that and like execute on that very quickly. And like, again, we don't work in the industry, so it's hard to say, right? But I think like you're gonna see, if you have less of like a committee, like a game by committee, you're gonna have more of like a forward path and kind of more of like a head behind the game. I don't know. That's my opinion. I feel like you use that time, like create the game. Don't start the creation of a game like 6 months before you're gonna ship it. You know what I mean? It's like, get that shit going as soon as possible. Like, I feel like there's just like at the beginning there's just like so much lollygagging and back and forth that like nothing's actually really getting done. I don't know. I've read so many like, you know, exposés and shit, and it just seems like time and time again that's gonna happen. And I don't know. I feel like you just gotta don't utilize the time right before a game ships to crunch. It's like spread that crunch out over months and months. Even if like some aspects are like still being finalized, like be working on other shit. I don't know. It's such a hard thing from like having an outsider perspective. It's such a hard thing in on this topic. But I don't know. I think you're right. I think it's just, you know, scheduling,
and I feel also that video game employees, because I know it's a very gig economy workforce. Like you come in, you work on a show, and then work on a game, and then you're gone. I think it's an industry that could stand to be unionized a lot stronger than it already is. I think there should be like they should start, like the employees of these companies should start saying, hey, we want a union here. And if it's something that like everybody should organize around, and it's not just simply like, oh, one company says it. Like I think all these people within a certain community, like let's say in San Francisco, where I'm sure there's a lot of game developers and programmers who do that, like they should say, hey, you know what, we're coming together, we need collective bargaining rights that'll allow us to prevent that. And the other thing, though, I think what they need to have, and they probably have something like this, but is, as you said, someone whose sole job is to say yes or no, but what they look at is a scheduling. They say, okay, you've got a game, you're projecting 2 years of development, fine. And then 3 months later, there's literally a check-in where it's like, how are things going? What goals have we met? What goals haven't we met? Okay, you haven't met this many. We need to add another 6 months to the cycle, sort of thing. Like, I feel scheduling isn't just from the start. It's something you should be keeping up with the whole way through. Like, making sure that you're always hitting your targets and stuff like that. And if there's any big teardowns, like, you should also be open with the public and say, hey, you know what? This, the next Dragon Age game we're working on, if you're BioWare, it's been going great, but we've, you know, come into a stumbling block where we have this issue. We need more time, so we're going to push back the release date. I mean, obviously, Dragon Age, the next one hasn't been announced. Well, it's been announced, but it hasn't been release dated yet. But I think you need to have more communication with the public to explain why the delays are happening and make them more acceptable to everybody. Because when people are sitting there going like, oh shit, Cyberpunk's coming out in like a month, this is going to be great. And then you just come out of the blue and say, oh no, it's not. It's coming out much later. It's like, I think basically the more heads up you have towards your public saying, hey, this game's going to take a little longer, the better off you'll be. And as gamers, we do need to stop pre-ordering. It's something I'm super guilty of it, but stop pre-ordering and just
You've been saying that for years.
And just make more than pre-ordering is just like let people know, you know what, we're okay with delays if it means that the people making these games we love have the time to like live a life. Like I'm fine with waiting another 6 months for a game if it means that the people who are putting the effort in are working in decent conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I like as far as pre-orders go, like just like pivoting back to that for 1 second. Honestly, I don't mind pre-ordering a game when it's with a company that has shown that, you know, I can pre-order with them. Like whatever, CD Projekt Red, I know I'm gonna like the new Destiny, so I'm gonna pre-order the new Destiny. I'm like, you know, Bungie's has that cred with me. I think that it's like the credibility. It's like, does this company have credibility with me?
100%.
Like I wouldn't buy the new Assassin. I wouldn't pre-order the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Doesn't mean I'm never gonna buy it, but I'm 100% not gonna pre-order it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if the company has credibility and they have some salt with you, you're going to pre-order it. It's like, as I said before, it's like, I'm going to buy it anyway. I know I'm going to buy it. Like, might as well pre-order it. Might as well give them a bit of that, you know, Q2 earning that they're so desperately in need of.
No, that's 100%. I pre-ordered with CD Projekt Red because Cyberpunk, because I was like, oh yeah, I know this will be decent and I know it'll be a good game. And their last game, Witcher 3, was fantastic, and I enjoyed, like, I have confidence in them. But I will say the amount that they've delayed now has shaken that a little bit, and not terribly, but I mean, Witcher 4, we'll have to see when that comes out how I feel about it for pre-ordering. I don't think they'll do a Witcher 4, but you know what I mean.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of things. I think we covered all the topics. I think it's safe to say we're pretty excited about Cyberpunk 2077. It's out tentatively as of now, December 10th. Looking forward to it. It'll be, like you said, a nice Christmas game. Yeah, super excited. And yeah, I think that'll do it for us. Thanks very much, Sam. As always, please like, subscribe. Anything you've listened to, positive rating would be greatly appreciated. Sam, thanks a lot, man.
Yep.
Really appreciate the talk.
You take care, man.
Easy.